This is look, to prove to you that the better choice for him is a lead. He's agreed to give it up. Okay, but I have 30 acres to cover my son now. We'll be with him all day as he goes back to taking Tylenol. Yeah, I was okay, but after lunch, my knees started hurting again, so won't do it. Yep, another pill, Scott. Can I get my lead back yet? For my pain, I want my lead. Get all day minor arthritis pain relief with an easy open cap.
This is Jim. He's a proud hotel owner. But Jim is frustrated. The Rabbit Breeders' Convention has come to town, and none of the visitors stay in his amazing hotel.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
This space is very important. It is not a space from the President of United States of America. Final State of Union speech by Barack Obama highlights the problem the world has to face in coming days. Who is not refugee? I am a refugee and I cannot understand who is a refugee and who is not a refugee. Not very long ago, oil priced as high as $160, which crashed to $30. What happened? How relieved are we? It is load shedding for 99% all the way. Complete dark age. Indian economy streamlined with continuous cut in government expenditure, all on name of growth. It is no more a welfare state. It is no more a democratic republic government by parliament, ruled by parliament. Basic needs. It is the problem. Barack Obama is speaking, and we have to note it with cautious note. As Hillary Clinton, I am afraid to say, perhaps lost the support of Israel and most powerful Zionist group in United States of America, which rules the world, the global order. United States of America, and not only United States of America, but all the government worldwide, the banking system, the economies, and so on. And Trump has played the Trump card so well that Canada has to fence its border with United States of America lest the refugee influx from America should create a European crisis in Canada, as it is feared. If Trump wins the election, then the Muslims have to leave America. I have been insisting time and again that this Hindutva agenda, this RSS agenda of global Hindutva and Hindu globe is nothing but the agenda of world order ruled by the Zionist satanic circle, and it is against Islam. It is all about Islamophobia. Hindutva agenda in India is based on Islamophobia, and America's war against terror roots in Islamophobia, and Trump has banned on Islamophobia. 20% of Democratic votes have crossed the fence, it is reported. And now, in this context, President of America, Obama, speaks.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Everybody, please have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans. Tonight marks the 8th year that I've come here to report on the State of the Union. And for this final one, I'm going to try to make it a little shorter. I know some of you are anxious to get back to Iowa. I've been there. I'll be shaking hands afterwards if you want some tips. Now, I understand that because it's an election season, expectations for what we will achieve this year are low. But Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the constructive approach that you and other leaders took at the end of last year to pass a budget and make tax cuts permanent for working families. So I hope we can work together this year on some bipartisan priorities like criminal justice reform and helping people who are battling prescription drug abuse and heroin abuse. So, who knows, we might surprise the cynics again. But tonight, I want to go easy on the traditional list of proposals for the year ahead. Don't worry, I've got plenty. From helping students learn to write computer code to personalizing medical treatments for patients, and I will keep pushing for progress on the work that I believe still needs to be done. Fixing a broken immigration system. Protecting our kids from gun violence. Equal pay for equal work. Paid leave. Raising the minimum wage. All these things still matter to hardworking families. They're still the right thing to do. And I won't let up until they get done. But for my final address to this chamber, I don't want to just talk about next year. I want to focus on the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and beyond. I want to focus on our future.
We live in a time of extraordinary change. Change that's reshaping the way we live, the way we work, our planet, our place in the world. It's change that promises amazing medical breakthroughs, but also economic disruptions that strain working families. It promises education for girls in the most remote villages, but also connects terrorists plotting an ocean away. It's change that can broaden opportunity or widen inequality. And whether we like it or not, the pace of this change will only accelerate. America's been through big changes before. Wars and depression, the influx of new immigrants, workers fighting for a fair deal, movements to expand civil rights. Each time, there have been those who told us to fear the future, who claimed we could slam the brakes on change, who promised to restore past glory if we just got some group or idea that was threatening America under control. And each time we overcame those fears. We did not, in the words of Lincoln, adhere to the dogmas of the quiet past. Instead, we thought anew and acted anew. We made change work for us, always extending America's promise outward to the next frontier, to more people. And because we did, because we saw opportunity where others saw peril, we emerged stronger and better than before. What was true then can be true now.
मानव शरीर में जो शक्ति है, ऊर्जा है, कितनी अद्भुत है, तो क्यों ना उस शक्ति का इस्तेमाल करके बिजली बनाई है। हमने एक तरह की
What was true then can be true now. Our unique strengths as a nation, our optimism and work ethic,
Mind you,
discovery,
this crisis is not only
rule of law.
an American crisis.
These things give us
It is
everything we need to ensure
turned out
security
to
for
be
generations to come.
a global crisis. This agenda of global Hindu,
That we have made
this
progress
agenda of Hindu globe is the Zionist globe,
crisis in generations.
the global order governed by the Zionist forces, and Trump has emerged as the representative chosen by Zionist forces, and he seems to be trained in RSS headquarters in Nagpur, and Barack Obama is responding.
That's how we That's how we secured the freedom in every state to marry the person we love. But such progress is not inevitable. It's the result of choices we make together. And we face such choices right now. Will we respond to the changes of our time with fear, turning inward as a nation, turning against each other as a people?
Mind you, turning against each other in a nation. It is happening in India.
And the incredible things that we can do together. So let's talk about the future. and four
Let us talk about the
that
future.
we as a country have to answer, regardless of who the next president is or who controls the next Congress.
It makes no difference which government takes
How do we give
over.
everyone a fair shot at opportunity and security in this new economy? Second, how do we make technology work for us and not against us, especially when it comes to solving urgent challenges like climate change? Third, how do we keep America safe and lead the world without becoming its policeman? And finally, how can we make our politics reflect what's best in us and not what's worse? Let me start with the economy.
Let me put off the light. I am not going to deal with the text,
Right now,
and you would get
has
better
the
regulation
most durable
if the
economy in the world.
it is darkness.
We're in the middle of the longest streak of private sector job creation in history. More than 14 million new jobs, the strongest 2 years of job growth since the 1990s, an unemployment rate cut in half. Our auto industry just had its best year ever. That's just part of a manufacturing surge that's created nearly 900,000 new jobs in the past 6 years. And we've done all this while cutting our deficits by almost 3/4. Anyone claiming that America's economy is in decline is peddling fiction. Now, what is true, and the reason that a lot of Americans feel anxious, is that the economy has been changing in profound ways. Changes that started long before the Great Recession hit, changes that have not let up.
It is very important because the presidential election result would have the most potential impact on the affairs in every country, and it would
For a raise.
have an impact on the sustenance of humanity and nature,
More wealth and income is concentrated at the very top.
because a different set of governance
These workers,
is
even when they have jobs,
said to be taking over in America, which has taken over
it is harder for
Indian subcontinent already. We are under the governance of fascism, and hence we have to deal with this space
although none of
with
these
so
threats
detail.
to America, they do offend our uniquely American belief that everybody who works hard should get a fair shot. For the past 7 years, our goal has been a growing economy that also works better for everybody. We've made progress, but we need to make more. And despite all the political arguments that we've had these past few years, there are actually some areas where Americans broadly agree. We agree that real opportunity requires every American to get the education and training they need to land a good paying job. The bipartisan reform of No Child Left Behind was an important start. And together we've increased early childhood education, lifted high school graduation rates to new highs, boosted graduates in fields like engineering. In the coming years, we should build on that progress by providing pre-K for all and offering every...
Here again, it is the growth saga. Discussion is about US economy. It should be. In India, we don't focus on economy at all. In our elections, economy is not discussed at all. Nobody asks question if it was $160 per barrel, the oil price, and now it is about $30 per barrel, the oil price. Why the masses, the 99% people should not be relieved?
No hard-working student.
Contrarily, the financial managers of India are making India a tax haven for multinational company, for foreign capital, for foreign investors, foreign interests, and nobody is asking. And government expenditure cut is all about to cut the welfare state to size, zeroing the subsidy, and making education and knowledge privatized, making basic needs and basic services privatized. It is complete privatization, complete disinvestment, but we skip the discussion on economy. Nobody is asking if the oil is only 30% more than less than 1/5. Why it should be inflation? Why there should be price rise? Who gets the benefit? Where the oil savings goes, nobody has to ask. And it is Indian politics, it is free market economy, and we escape the economy. And the President of America, in its final State of Union full speech, it is full speech, and he is Democrat leader also, and the Democrats are challenged by Republicans, supported by Zionist forces, and he is not directly addressing Trump or his racist plan. He is speaking on economy, mind you.
Everything else is today. That, by the way, is what the Affordable Care Act is all about. It's about filling the gaps in employer-based care so that when you lose a job, or you go back to school, or you strike out and launch that new business, you'll still have coverage. Nearly 18 million people have gained coverage so far. And in the process, healthcare inflation has slowed, and our businesses have created jobs every single month since it became law.
He is focusing on the economy. And we are habitual to listen to dream merchants. They are not responsible to the people of India, and we, the people of India, taxpayers as well as non-taxpayers, are excluded from economy.
Just make sure that he can get unemployment insurance. We should make sure that program encourages him to retrain for a business that's ready to hire him. If that new job doesn't pay,
we have a business-friendly government.
Wage insurance in place. So
and all we note all doors are open for foreign investment, foreign interest, and it is tax holiday. It is tax foregone, and in the next budget, they are all set to do away with the corporate tax and do away with the subsidies at the same time.
And I'd welcome a serious discussion about strategies we can all support, like expanding tax cuts for low-income workers.
Tax cut is meant for the capital, but the people are overloaded with taxation, and it is called tax reforms in India.
Some areas where we just have to be honest, it has been difficult to find
the new economy in India, the digital India, the biometric India, the robotic India has nothing to do with the people of India.
favor of the wealthiest and biggest
But
corporations.
Mr. Barack Obama, even after completion of his second term, is responsible to American Congress. He is responsible to the people of United States of America, and he is speaking in detail about the economy, the new economy of America. But neither our Prime Minister, nor our Finance Minister, nor anyone from the political class cares about the people or cares to explain the details of the economy, the details of the policy making. There is no public hearing, no inclusion whatsoever.
Or bigger paychecks.
It is the difference between United States of America and India.
Expense.
We have to keep in mind.
Middle class families are not going to feel more secure because we allowed a tax on collective bargaining to go unanswered. Food stamp recipients did not cause the financial crisis. Recklessness on Wall Street did.
Where the financial crisis roots in, we have never discussed. We have never addressed the basic problems of Indian economy. We have never discussed how to enhance the industrial growth rate, how to enhance the agrarian growth rate. We have been talking all the time the ratings about international rating agencies, the growth rate, and we have hid so much so about the growth saga, development saga. It is the difference.
And I'm not alone in this. This year I plan to lift up the many businesses who figured out that doing right by their workers,
it is the claim,
or their customers,
it is the explanation,
being good for their shareholders. And I want to spread those best practices across America. That's part of a brighter future. In fact, it turns out many of our best corporate citizens are also our most creative. And this brings me to the second big question we as a country have to answer. How do we reignite that spirit of innovation to meet our biggest challenges? 60 years ago, when the Russians beat us into space, we didn't deny Sputnik was up there. We didn't argue about the science or shrink our research and development budget. We built a space program almost overnight, and 12 years later, we were walking on the moon.
it is the growth story in America. It is about the scientific research, the space science.
That spirit of discovery is in our DNA.
What is in our DNA?
And the Wright brothers and George Washington Carver.
We are going back to the dark age, and we are claiming that the Vedic science is
Every immigrant and
everything.
Boston.
We are going against innovation. We are going against science. We are going against history.
And over the past 7 years, we've nurtured that spirit. We've protected an open internet and taken bold new steps to get more students and low-income Americans online. We've launched next-generation manufacturing hubs and online tools that give an entrepreneur everything he or she needs to start a business in a single day. But we can do so much more. You know, last year, Vice President Biden said that with a new moonshot, America can cure cancer. Last month, he worked with this Congress to give scientists at the National Institutes of Health the strongest resources that they've had in over a decade. Well,
What about
announcing a new national
the status of cancer patients in India? What about medical care in India? What about primary education in India? What about higher education in India? What about research in India? We have to understand we are talking about infrastructure. We are highlighting the infrastructure, the builder, promoter, syndicate, Raj is our economy without any innovation.
Our medical research is critical. We need the same level of commitment when it comes to developing clean energy sources. Look, if anybody still wants to dispute the science around climate change, have at it. You will be pretty lonely because you'll be debating our military, most of America's business leaders, the majority of the American people, almost the entire scientific community, and 200 nations around the world who agree it's a problem and intend to solve it. But even if the planet wasn't at stake, even if 2014 wasn't the warmest year on record, until 2015 turned out to be.
I think most people wouldn't know me.
It is the interruption by ads, and
In 2 months,
we have to bear with it.
a million bottles. I thought that is great. And now it's a few million bottles a year.
We have to bear with it.
A little over 1 million bottles a day.
I can't help it.
12% sold over 1 billion.
I can't edit the video
He has cracked the Forbes billionaire list.
because I am using only
I'm
webcam.
making a lot of money here.
Okay.
On record. Until 2015 turned out to be even hotter. Why would we want to pass up the chance for American businesses to produce and sell the energy of the future? Listen. 7 years ago, we made the single biggest investment in clean energy in our history. Here are the results. In fields from Iowa to Texas, wind power is now cheaper than dirtier conventional power.
It is about American economy,
Arizona to New York.
and we should have a feel how economy is discussed in US presidential elections, and at no stage of in any Indian election we discuss the economy with so much focus. We discuss allegations, we discuss scams, we discuss corruption, we discuss dynasties,
Country on earth.
but we don't discuss the economy. We never discuss, we never interact on economy, and economy is managed by the corporate lawyers in corporate interest in accordance with corporate lobbying. And it is Indian economy, Indian politics, contrary to the United States of America. Hence, I decided to
Especially
speak
communities
and
that rely on
analyze Barack Obama's speech in detail, a frame-to-frame study.
change the way we manage our oil and coal resources. They better reflect the cost they impose on taxpayers and our planet. And that way we put money back into those communities and put tens of thousands of Americans to work building a 21st century transportation system. Now, none of this is going to happen overnight. And yes, there are plenty of entrenched interests who want to protect the status quo. But the jobs will create, the money will save, the planet will preserve. That is the kind of future our kids and our grandkids deserve. And it's within our grasp. And climate change is just one of many issues where our security is linked to the rest of the world. And that's why the third big question that we have to answer together is how to keep America safe and strong without either isolating ourselves
In India,
or trying to make
the
sure everywhere there's a problem.
economic reforms mean to legalize every illegal act, to legalize the suspension of civic and human rights, to legalize
Getting stronger and
the criminal acts and criminal acts against humanity and nature.
America.
And nobody asks any question. Nobody raised his or her voice. And if someone dares to speak with public court, he is brandished with the charges of sedition, anti-Hindu, anti-national. This is the trend in India nowadays.
8 nations combined. Our troops are the finest fighting force in the history of the world.
And now it is the most controversial part of the space, US leadership in the world, which we have been criticizing. But we are not going to discuss this. We are going to discuss the economic focal point of Barack Obama and the internal situation in America, which has to be managed by anti-Muslim hegemony there, and it would create the global crisis sooner or later, and it would have adverse impact worldwide, and the worst impact in India and Indian subcontinent.
Because when we don't make good decisions. Now, as someone who begins every day with an intelligence briefing, I know this is a dangerous time.
It is a dangerous time.
Some looming superpower out there, and it's certainly not because of diminished American strength. In today's world, we're threatened less by evil empires and more by failing states.
Failing states.
The Middle East is going through
He is using the term.
play out for a generation.
Is India a failed state? We have never asked this question to us. We brand Pakistan as a failed state, but we dare not ask ourselves Is India a failed state?
As their economy severely contracts, Russia is pouring resources in to prop up Ukraine and Syria, client states that they saw slipping away from their orbit. And the international system we built after World War II is now struggling to keep pace with this new reality. It's up to us, the United States of America, to help remake that system. And to do that well, it means that we've got to set priorities. Priority number one is protecting the American people and going after terrorist networks.
It is about America's war against terrorism. And we know America created Taliban, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and we are not convinced with his arguments
Threat to our people,
in this
because
context.
in today's world, even a handful of terrorists who place no value on human life, including their own, can do a lot of damage. They use the internet to poison the minds of individuals inside our country. Their actions undermine and destabilize our allies. We have to take them out. But as we focus on destroying ISIS, over-the-top claims that this is World War III just play into their hands. Masses of fighters on the back of pickup trucks, twisted souls plotting in apartments or garages, they pose an enormous danger to civilians. They have to be stopped. But they do not threaten our national existence. That is the story ISIL wants to tell. That's the kind of propaganda they use to recruit. We don't need to build them up to show that we're serious. And we sure don't need to push away vital allies in this fight by echoing the lie that ISIL is somehow representative of one of the world's
And
largest
this
religions.
war against terror has created the refugee influx, which overflows the European soil, and it is
We
America's
just need to call them what they are.
Arabian Spring, which
They have
created
to be rooted out.
the refugee problem all over in the Middle East, specifically in Syria and in African countries.
And that's exactly what we're doing.
And now we are going to discuss
America has led a coalition of more than 60
the refugee influx,
financing,
which has to emerge from the United States of America. The United States is leading 65 partners in an international
their oil, their training,
war against terror, and more than 9,500 air strikes.
in Iraq and Syria.
These data are very important as we are the strategic partner. India is the strategic partner with United States of America.
Take a vote.
And we have to note all this data presented by the President of America. Oof.
Humans which have
It is so much so disturbing.
use that to create energy.
Take a vote. But the American people should know that with or without congressional action, ISIL will learn the same lessons as terrorists before them. If you doubt America's commitment, or mine, to see that justice is done, just ask Osama bin Laden. Ask the leader
It is
of the
American argument
last year.
for its war against terror, mind you. And it has created the
When you after
problem
Americans, we go after
and
you.
problems
Time, but we have long
in Middle
Our
East,
reach has no
in
limit.
Africa, and even South Asia.
Our foreign policy has to be focused on the threat from ISIS and Al Qaeda. But it can't stop there. For even without ISIS, even without Al Qaeda, instability will continue for decades in many parts of the world. In the Middle East, in Afghanistan, parts of Pakistan, in parts of Central America, in Africa and Asia. Some of these places may become safe havens for new terrorist networks. Others will just fall victim to ethnic conflict or famine, feeding the next wave of refugees.
The refugees,
The world will
this is the
work together to
problem.
solve these problems. And
The
our
humanity
more than tough talk.
has to suffer
Carpet bombs.
most from the refugee problem in near future.
But it doesn't pass muster on the world stage.
Denial of civic and human
We
rights,
can't try
displacement,
to rebuild every
and the war against terror,
even
and the hegemony of racist apartheid has taken over the globe, mind you. And it would be
blood and treasure
refugee problem
will weaken us.
worldwide.
It's the lesson of Vietnam.
It would be
We
greater
have learned it by now.
tragedy. It would be greater Holocaust than partition of India that we have already
Fortunately,
undergone,
smarter approach.
and the Holocaust continues in India, in every part of India.
Every element
And
of our
it is going to be a global phenomenon, and it is all about the global Hindutva, and it is all about the global Zionism.
But on issues of global concern, we will mobilize the world to work with us and make sure other countries pull their own weight. That's our approach to conflicts like Syria, where we're partnering with local forces and leading international efforts to help that broken society pursue a lasting peace. That's why we built a
Mr. President is dealing with the Syria crisis.
a nuclear-armed Iran, and as we speak, Iran has rolled back its nuclear program, shipped out its uranium stockpile, and the world has avoided another war.
He claims that Iran is blocked.
That's how we stop the spread of Ebola in West Africa. Our military, our doctors, our development workers, they were heroic. They set up the platform that then allowed other countries to join in behind us and stamp out that epidemic. Hundreds of thousands, maybe a couple million lives were saved. That's how we forged a trans-Pacific partnership to open markets and protect workers and the environment and advance American leadership in Asia. It cuts 18...
Making American leadership in Asia, mind you, the
will
phrase.
then support more good jobs here in America. With TPP, China does not set the rules in that region, we do. You want to show our strength in this new century? Approve this agreement. Give us the tools.
US strength in this new centric, mind you, is China and India.
Let me give you another example. 50 years of isolating Cuba had failed to promote democracy. It set us back in Latin America. That's why we restored diplomatic
Isolated
opened
Cuba,
the door to travel
mind you.
and commerce. Positioned ourselves to improve the lives of the Cuban people. So if you want to consolidate our leadership and credibility in the hemisphere,
America has consolidated its leadership The leader was Barack Obama, and Mr. Trump is emerging as the leader of United States of America.
American leadership in the 21st century is not a choice between ignoring the rest of the world, except when we kill terrorists, or occupying and rebuilding whatever society is unraveling. Leadership means a wise application of military power and rallying the world behind causes that are right. It means seeing our foreign assistance as a part of our national security, not something separate, not charity. When we leave nearly 200
Brinchi Baba, Titanic Baba, is also hyped as global leader nowadays.
Protects our kids.
And look at the
Ukraine
difference.
defend its democracy, or Colombia resolve a decades-long war. That strengthens the international order we depend on. When we help African countries feed their people and care for the sick, it's the right thing to do, and it prevents the next pandemic from reaching our shores. You know, right now we're on track to end the scourge of HIV/AIDS.
He is speaking about foreign policies, and we also do not discuss foreign policies in public. We escape the economic policies, we escape the economics, we escape the
That's American.
economy itself, the production system, and we escape the diplomacy and foreign policies, the success and failures. It is a taboo in India.
It is expensive, it is unnecessary, and it only serves as a recruitment brochure for our enemies. There's a better way.
Now it's speaking about Guantanamo.
And that's why we need to reject any politics. Any politics that targets people because of race or religion.
Race and relations, mind you. Now,
Let me just say this.
this is very important.
This is not a matter of political correctness. This is a matter of understanding.
It is not a matter of political correctness, mind you.
The world respects us not just for our arsenal. It respects us for our diversity and our openness and the way we respect everything. His Holiness Pope Francis told this body from the very spot that I'm standing on tonight that to imitate the hatred and violence of
Hatred and violence.
is a way to take their place.
This is the result
When politicians
of
insult
a racist apartheid.
whether abroad or our fellow citizens,
Fellow citizens,
when a
do we
Muslim
care about them?
or a kid is called names, it doesn't make us safer. That's not telling it like it is. It's just wrong. It diminishes us in the eyes of the world.
Just
It makes it harder.
we have to understand the concern of President Barack Obama.
I think most people who wouldn't know me, Manoj Arga,
Oof.
I don't know.
We the people.
We
The
the people.
Constitution begins with those three simple words.
We the people means all of US, all in this together. And we should mind it. We the people means all of India, all in this together. And we are dividing it into India vertically in minority and majority. It is Indian crisis and it is going to be the American crisis also, and Barack Obama is warning.
Opportunity and security for our families, a rising standard of living, a sustainable, peaceful planet for our kids.
Sustainable, peaceful planet.
That is within our reach. But it will only happen if we work together. It will only happen if we can have rational, constructive debates. It will only happen if we fix our politics. A better politics doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. This is a big country. Different regions, different attitudes, different interests. That's one of our strengths too. Our founders distributed power between states and branches of government and expected us to argue, just as they did, fiercely, over the size and shape of government, over commerce and foreign relations, over the meaning of liberty and the imperatives of security. But democracy does require basic bonds of trust between its citizens. It doesn't work if we think the people who disagree with us are all motivated by malice. It doesn't work if we think that our political opponents are unpatriotic or trying to weaken America.
Barack Obama declares we are trying to weaken America. What
or when even basic are contested,
our rulers
or when we listen only
even say that we are weakening India.
Our public life withers when only the most extreme voices get all the attention. And most of all, democracy breaks down when the average person feels their voice doesn't matter.
And it is happening in India. Our voice, the voices of the 99% does not matter at all.
Americans feel that way right now. It's one of the few regrets of my presidency, that the rancor and suspicion between the parties has gotten worse.
Now, we have got it, and it is...
I have no doubt.
I am going to the hate space which Mr. Barack Obama was responding. This is the space.
So, we put out a statement today. We watched this, and it's impossible.
This is Donald Trump emerging as the next president of United States of America. And listen to him.
Shall I read you the statement? Donald J. Trump is calling for, now listen, you gotta listen to this, okay, this is pretty heavy stuff, but it's common sense, and we have to do it. Remember the poll numbers, 25%, 51%, remember the poll numbers. You have to remember them, so listen. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
It is announcement complete shut down against Muslim, and he has won the Zionist support, and it is about the global agenda of Hindutva also.
According to Pew Research, among others, there is a great hatred toward Americans by large segments of the Muslim population. Most recently, a poll from Center for Security Policy released data showing 25% of those polled agree that violence against Americans, these are people that are here, by the way, people are here, 25, not 1%. By the way, 1% would be unacceptable. 1% is unacceptable. 25% of those polled.
He is speaking hatred
against Americans here in the United States is justified as part, think of that, as part of the global jihad. They want to change your religion.
Same linguistics
I don't think
we are habitual to hear in India
as part of
by Hindu brigade.
and
It is the
51%
same
of people
linguistics.
agree that Muslims in America should have the choice of being governed according to Sharia. You know what Sharia is? 51%. Sharia authorizes, and look, this is, terrible. Sharia authorizes such atrocities as murder against non-believers who won't convert, beheadings, and more unthinkable acts that pose great harm to Americans, especially...
These are the arguments of Hindutva in India, mind you.
Tough stuff. And we have a president that won't even mention the term. And you're talking about numbers like this. Mr. Trump stated, without looking at the various polling data, it's obvious to anybody the hatred is beyond comprehension of such a big portion. Where the hatred comes from and why we will have to determine. We're going to have to figure it out. We have to figure it out. We can't live like this. It's going to get worse and worse. You're going to have more World Trade Centers. It's going to get worse and worse, folks. We can be politically correct and we can be stupid, but it's going to get worse and worse. Until we are able to determine and understand this problem and the dangerous threat it poses, our country cannot be the victim of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad. These are people who only believe in jihad. They don't want our system. They don't want our system. And have no sense of reason or respect for human life. They have no respect for human life.
This is again the argument of Hindutva brigade.
That's all right. He sounds like he's very exhausted. It's all right. He's tired. So, they have no respect for human life. So we have to do something. Now,
It is enough. We cannot bear him. And the result is very, very alarming as this. Canada is afraid of Trump, the Trump card.
If I'm the United States, I'd like to shut my government down.
American border fence with Canada. This border is fenced. I am getting this is I am not getting the video, but this is by Fox News. The Canadian government announced that it is building a fence all along the US border in order to keep out the millions of Americans fleeing to Canada in the event that Donald Trump is elected president. And I am afraid that it is going to be the reality most possible. And if I get, this is Republicans pile on Trump as US president. Rival Republican presidential candidates piled on it is Reuters report. Rival Republican presidential candidates piled on Donald Trump on Saturday for his caustic remark about a female debate moderator and a billionaire celebrity candidate backpedaled in an effort to keep his campaign from unraveling. Trump blasted Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly during a debate in Cleveland on Thursday, and she questioned him about insulting comments he had made about women. And he is against women. He is not only against Muslim, he is against women. And it is all about Manusmriti.
Saying that she was having her period, that's why she was asking questions. I mean, it's disrespectful to Megyn Kelly. It's disrespectful to female journalists. It's disrespectful to ladies in general. I don't want my daughter in the room with Donald Trump tomorrow night, so he's not invited. I'm sorry.
Instead of backing down, Trump doubled down, saying on Twitter that wherever referred to Kelly's nose.
It is turning out an Indian election in It is turning out an Indian election in United States of America. And now I have to, I was telling in the beginning, it is very hard to it is very hard to identify any refugee at all. Island, we can identify ours, and this is trending in United States of America. Republicans debate before law caucus, and Trump is in the focus. Hillary Clinton is on. Yes, it is loading.
Dive deeper into 60 Minutes with 60 Minutes All Access. Watch current stories or explore the archives and get 60 Minutes overtime and extra. This is so amazing. Stream commercial free across your devices. Sign up now at 60minutes.com/allaccess.
It is the picture.
The body of a 3-year-old Syrian boy washes up in
This is the picture which shocked the globe.
2,600 refugees have drowned this year alone. 2,900 have been rescued at sea. 71 were found dead in an abandoned truck in Austria, including 4 children, the youngest just 1 year old.
Island.
Fill the Budapest train station. 350,000 migrants have flooded Europe, which hasn't seen such a humanitarian crisis since World War II. European leaders.
This is the refugee influx. and the new refugees will come from United States of America.
For unlimited access to over 75 schools with the most exciting men's and women's sports and stream to any device.
I am trying to get Island. We have to remember this tragedy, and it is going to be an eternal tragedy if Trump gets elected. Who is not refugee? This is the basic question we have to ask. Humanity is deprived of citizenship, and humanity has no survival kit. Humanity is drowned and dead. This is the reality. And it is another video. Wars in Middle East. It is the reality today, from which the refugee opt to flee from Middle East, from Africa. This is the scenario, the vocal scenario for which they have to leave their country and they have to seek refuge in Europe. And it is going to happen in United States of America. I am afraid if Donald Trump is elected. This is the global scenario inflicted with war and civil war. The Holocaust continued across borders worldwide, and we have to live in this world because political leadership worldwide is trending to make it in Trump mode. It is hatred, it is unprecedented violence, and it is ethnic cleansing all the way. And it is the agenda of Hindu, it is the agenda of Zionism. If Donald Trump elected as the President of United States, this is the globe they want. This is the globalization of terror, globalization of violence, globalization of killings, ethnic cleansing, globalization of weapon industry. It is globalization. It is nothing new, mind you. It is nothing new I am going to show you in 14 something about 1492 Columbus and the legacy of genocide which continues. What Columbus did in Latin America, and that is the legacy of United States of America.
1492 marks the year that Christopher Columbus invaded the Western Hemisphere and began 500 years of continuous indigenous genocide, resulting
Indigenous genocide continues in Indian subcontinent also. I would show you later.
To get some background on this story, let's look at Europe before Columbus. Beginning in 1095 AD, European Christians began invading the Middle East in a series of holy wars called the Crusades. These Christian holy wars were officially sponsored by the Catholic Church. The Catholic Pope issued what were called papal bulls, or declarations, in which the Catholic Church authorized Europeans to invade non-Christian lands for the purpose of taking over their lands and converting their populations to Christianity. It is from these papal bulls, or Catholic declarations, that the doctrine of discovery was developed. This doctrine gave Christian Europeans the self-appointed right to invade other people's lands and steal.
Self-appointed right.
In Spain, Spanish Christians had been fighting a reconquista, or reconquering, holy war against Muslims who had been occupying Spain for over 700 years. It was during this time that Spanish Christians developed concepts of racial purity, such as limpieza de sangre,
and racial purity is the ideology of religious nationalism in India. It is all about Manusmriti.
Was so pale that your blue veins could be shown, and therefore you were deemed a person who was pure. Now, at the same time as Spanish and Portuguese Christians began pushing Muslims out of Western Europe in the Iberian Peninsula, in the East, Muslims were taking over areas such as Constantinople and controlling the trade routes to the very rich markets of Asia. It was the Portuguese who began sailing around Africa in order to reach Asia, but in the process encountered Africans and began enslaving them. This was a very lucrative slave trade for the Portuguese, and the Spanish soon joined in. At this point, the Spanish then invaded the Canary Islands, which are islands off the northwest coast of Africa. The Spanish exterminated 100% of the indigenous population of the Canary Islands. This set the template for later Spanish genocide in the Western Hemisphere. Christopher Columbus was a pirate and slave trader.
Christopher Columbus was a pirate and slave
He offered to sail westward in order to reach Asia to reach the rich markets.
An icon of history.
After being lost at sea, on October
the pirate
1492,
and slave
Christopher
trader
Columbus arrived
is
in the
treated
Caribbean,
as an icon of
Asia.
the history of humanity and civilization.
That the indigenous people he encountered would make good slaves for Europeans. Despite describing the indigenous people as peaceful and friendly, Christopher Columbus and his pirates began the process of genocide. They took the leaders.
This genocide continues still today.
Gold, and then proceeded to execute the leadership. They then went around massacring, raping, and stealing everything they could of value. This began the Columbus formula of genocide.
The Columbus formula of genocide
population
is
kill the
sustained.
leader and then proceed to massacre unarmed people, all for the purposes of stealing the land and the wealth. Over the next 28 years, Europeans in the Caribbean would spread smallpox, which would decimate indigenous populations. Europeans got to witness firsthand for almost 30 years how smallpox worked, how it spread, and how it killed the indigenous population, but not so much the European population. All of this knowledge of how to commit genocide, this Columbus formula of genocide, was replicated in 1519 by the Spanish pirate and terrorist Hernán Cortés. By following the Columbus formula of spreading smallpox, massacring unarmed populations, and taking the leaders hostage, the Spanish proceeded to exterminate 23 million indigenous people in Mexico and Central America. This genocide formula continued. In 1532, Francisco Pizarro and more Spanish terrorists invaded Peru. By this time, the Spanish had 40 years of genocidal experience. At the Battle of Cajamarca in Peru, Francisco Pizarro and his men massacred 6,000 unarmed indigenous delegates. Following the Columbus formula of genocide, Francisco Pizarro and his men took hostage the Inca leader, they extorted the population for gold, and then proceeded to massacre and execute the leadership. Altogether, the Spaniards would kill 70 to 100 million indigenous people across the Western Hemisphere. This genocide made it possible for the Europeans to enrich themselves with gold, silver, free land, slaves, an untold amount of crops,
and history is repeated.
Wealth. Following the Spanish were the English, who began their own...
It is monopolistic aggression against indigenous and aboriginal people in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and even in Europe.
They destroyed our cities, burnt our books, raped our people, stole our land, and enslaved our ancestors. This genocide, enslavement, and occupation of our people and our lands by Europeans is continuing to this very day. The policies of genocidal destruction begun by Christopher Columbus and carried out by the Spanish, the English, and various European nationalities is still in effect today. The genocidal legacy of Christopher Columbus is one where we indigenous people today, mixed blood and full blood indigenous people, are impoverished, occupied by Europeans, our land stolen, and our history stolen from us, a forced ignorance upon our people. We live today as inferior subordinates, enslaved to the Europeans. The Europeans today call themselves Americans, Canadians, Criollos, or Chileans, Argentines, or whatever. But they are here as occupiers of our land based on the legacy of Christopher Columbus, and they are here using
Latin American
discovery as the basis of their white supremacist
stance.
Colonial occupation of our lands. They continue to steal the vast natural riches of our hemisphere, the natural resources like oil, timber, crops, etc., has made the white people of Europe, the European race, the richest and most powerful
and
people in the world.
It is
but they got
racial apartheid. And America and Mr. Donald Trump is going to revive the Ku Klux Klan. And what is about Ku Klux Klan? We should know about that.
They're preaching to our kids in schools. These black savages are our equals. They're our brothers and sisters. I tell them they're crazy. We're white people. Let's stand up for our white rights. The Klan is the only organization that stands up for the white right.
The Klan is a country country's oldest terrorist organization. It's engaged in murder, intimidation, violence, rape, pillage, and worse kinds of crimes.
The history of the Ku Klux Klan is a chronicle of hate in America.
The legacy of the Ku Klux Klan has been like terrorism. We've had a lot
The
of
Ku Klux Klan is not only revived in America, it is revived in South Asia also. It has to revive worldwide for a Zionist global order, for the sustenance of Manusmriti order.
Fabric of the American flag, becoming the great fraternal organization of the 1920s.
You had governors and senators and legislators elected with the Klan's blessing, and you also had Chief Justice Black of the U.S. Supreme Court. He joined the Klan because he felt it was kind of necessary.
It resurrected itself to combat the civil rights movement and launched a violent revolt against the onrushing tide of black equality. Its leaders sought to mask the terror, but the face of intolerance has always dwelled behind the hood. They are a part of American history we would like to forget, but we cannot. We should not.
Today, you can see a number of groups who are like the Klansmen, but they simply are not wearing the white sheets.
The Ku Klux Klan, a secret history.
They continue even today. And Donald Trump seems to represent Ku Klux Klan. It is racist apartheid. It is Ku Klux Klan. The white terrorism against the Negroid people, the Negroid citizens in America.
We are the Ku Klux Klan. We hate niggers, we hate Jews, we hate faggots, and we hate spicks.
It is the same linguistics which is used by Hindutva Brigade in India and which is being used by Donald Trump.
This is America. The niggers are taking it over and the Jews. Make a stand, join the Klan. White power! White power! White power! And I hate Jews. I hate them because they exist. I hate them because they breathe. I hate them because they're scum. The goddamn niggers are the scum of the earth. White power! White power!
They have also got a dress code.
The combustible discourse of the Klan plays to sparse crowds. But there was a time when millions of Americans embraced the ideology of the invisible empire. A time when scores of men, women,
And
children
the history
oath of allegiance to
is being repeated
virtually unchanged for over 100
not only in America, not only in India.
Klan creed.
It is a dark age yet again.
They want to throw white children and colored children into the melting pot of integration.
It is about the purity of blood. And this is a racial apartheid, and the status of racial apartheid in America. This is the real crisis.
She makes a few of her people happy. Oh, she don't care about the rest at all. She's got a system they call apartheid. It keeps a brother in a subjection. But maybe pressure will make Joanna see how everybody could live as one. Oh, give me hope, Joanna. Oh, Joanna, give me hope. Joanna, for the morning come. Give me hope, Joanna. Hope, Joanna. Hope before the morning come. I hear she makes all the golden honey to buy new weapons in the shape of guns. While every mother in a black Soweto fears the killing of another son, sneaking across all the neighbors' borders, now and again having little fun. She doesn't care if the fun and game she play is dangerous to everyone. Oh, give me hope, Joanna.
Now look at the Indian reference, Salwa Jurun.
Maoists, or Naxalites as they're known in India, now exert influence over a third of the Indian subcontinent. In one state alone, Chhattisgarh, police have been powerless to stop a series of shifting and violent clashes between state forces and a strengthening band of Maoist rebels.
This is racist apartheid, monopolistic aggression against indigenous aborigine people, and they are branded as Maoist extremists.
हथियार दिखा करके हमारा सिद्धांत को अपनाने के लिए कहीं भी ऐसा नहीं कहते हैं, हमारा सिद्धांत समझाते हैं। यदि वो अपना सिद्धांत को नहीं मानते हुए वो अपना सर में रहना चाहते हैं तो जबरन ऐसा नहीं किया जाता है। जो भी हम लोग की एक्शन लिए हैं वो वर्ग दुश्मन, लेकिन इसका पीछे एक राजनीतिक उद्देश्य है। इस उद्देश्य से लेकर के लोगों को संगठित किया जाता है और संघर्ष में उनका चेतना विकसित किया जाता है। भारत की कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी माओवादी जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद, मार्क्सवाद लेनिनवाद माओवाद जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद, मार्क्सवाद लेनिनवाद।
And the Maoists have captured
साम्राज्यवाद मुर्दाबाद
this central India, Chhattisgarh and Jungle Mahal, because these people are aborigine, indigenous, and they are deprived of civic and human rights. They are subjected to racial apartheid. They are subjected to repression, and they have been registered. They have been registering against this racist hegemony since for thousands and thousands years. They never accepted the Permanent Land Settlement Act, and they fought against the British rule just since 1757, and they were not enslaved by Mughal, Pathan, Shok, Hun or Aryans. They are the Adivasi people in India, and they are they have become refugees of development, refugees of growth, refugees of infrastructure.
But in truth,
and
that's not an acceptable choice.
This is
if they go back to their
the result of global order, the result of growth, all on name of development. It is exclusion, ethnic cleansing, and it is Salwa Jurum.
और बात पटेल साहब बात है असोरे असो के तो तदो तरलो
This is Salwa Jurong Brigade.
Stories I'd heard of villagers being forced into the camps.
ये तो उन लोगों की कहना है जो जबरदस्ती लाया गया, जो कह रहे हैं ये पूर्णतः वो नेक्सली सपोर्टेड थे, जो वही लोग आप लोग ऐसे एक कहे होंगे, मेरे ख्याल से ऐसा लग रहा है, क्योंकि ये स्वस्फूर्त आंदोलन है, इसलिए किसी ने जबरदस्ती
सलवा जुड़ोम
नहीं है, ये आप अच्छी तरह जानते हैं, हम सब जानते हैं.
This is Salwa Jurom against the tribals, and the state bans damage Maoist, and the state regimented these people.
जो जिसको मानवाधिकार के लोग जो दिलाना चाहते हैं, जब तक
they are against human rights, they are against civic rights, and it is playing as Ku Klux Klan, and the Ku Klux Klan is revived worldwide. Mind you, if Donald Trump wins the presidential election, it would be Ku Klux Klan regime worldwide, supported by Zionism and Hindutva brigade, and it would be the accomplishment of the task of global Hindutva, which I have been discussing again and again, that it is the agenda of Zionist global order. If Donald Trump wins, it would be disaster for civilization and humanity, and hence I have focused on the response by the President of America, the outgoing President of America, Barack Hussein Obama. Thank you, humanity.